What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 47 of Week in Review. My name is Sean. On this week's show, we're going to talk about one movie, we're going to talk about the Kinda Funny Games Showcase and the Game Awards, and we're going to look forward to this week's new releases. First up on this week's show is the movie BumbleBee, which is a movie I didn't actually think I was going to go see. I kept seeing trailers for it, and I just wasn't super into it. I thought it looked kind of cool, but I've been burned on the Transformers movies, kind of like burned out on them. I think the first Transformers movie is actually pretty good. The second and third are two of the worst movies I've ever seen, and the fourth one with Mark Wahlberg is like a marginal step up, but it still is like not great and kind of boring and too long, and I didn't really know if I wanted a Bumblebee like origin movie. I don't know if I wanted that. So while I didn't plan to actually go out and see this movie when it releases on December 21st, it turns out they were actually doing a special screening on December 8th. I decided to go, and I feel like I kind of blacked out when I made the purchase because I was like, I don't really want to see this movie, but like it could be good content, and like that'd be kind of an interesting experience to go see a movie so far in advance of its release. Click, 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 ticket purchased, instant like, shit. I don't know if I want to go... I don't know if I want to do this. Did I really do that? Did I really just buy this ticket to this movie that I don't care about? Yeah, I did. I absolutely did that. And I think I bought it like a week in advance or like 6 days in advance. So basically I had 6 days to sit on it and be like, you're an idiot and you bought a ticket to this movie that you don't care about. Like, obviously, like I've seen way worse movies in the theater. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is I just don't care about Bumblebee necessarily. So all week I'm kind of like dreading it. I'm like, do I go? Do I return the ticket and just go see something different? Do I just not worry about it? Do I just keep the ticket and just not go to the actual movie? Like what do I? So Saturday rolls around and I decide, you know what, I'll just go. I've spent worse time in the theater. It can't be worse than Action Point. Boom, roasted. So I go down to the theater. I show them my ID because you have to with the AMC Stubs, like A-list thing, which is probably like the main reason I was like enticed, because it's one of the 3 free movies you get. This sounds like an ad, not an ad, but it would be one of the 3 tickets that I get for the week. So it was kind of like, that was kind of enticing as well. And so I get up there and I see this like box of stuff. And I'm like, is there like a special thing you get with it? And shout out to the lady who was tasked with passing these out, because she couldn't have looked any less interested if she tried. So she pulls out this little Transformer thing. It has like 2 modes. I don't know what in the world it is. It's like a movie edition Transformer Generations thing. I haven't actually opened it yet. So I guess this is like kind of like limited edition on top of movie review thing. See this little, I think... Oh, good. I got Megatron. That Megatron? I don't know. I don't know anything about the Transformers universe. And the more I watch the movies, the less I know and the less I care. So, got this little toy. And for as disinterested as she was handing it to me, I'm as disinterested in actually playing with it. Anywho, go around the corner, because the theater is like, okay, you're in theater 8. Here's your seat, D6, whatever. Go to the left. And as I'm walking down the hall, I noticed that there's someone actually like standing outside of the theater, which is super weird. Like, they never have individual people outside like a theater, like monitoring that door. And so I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I set my backpack down and I'm going to go pull my Nintendo Switch out. For those of you who don't know, I do a really stupid series of pictures on my Instagram where I hold up a Nintendo Switch in front of the reader board for whatever movie I'm going to see. I started doing it like right after I bought the Nintendo Switch, and I thought it was like a funny idea. And at this point, I'm just committed to being annoying with it and just continuing to do it because I think it's funny. I think it's cool to document that sort of thing. That's what I like doing. So I was like going to do it, and he's like, hey, are you going to see, are you here for the Bumblebee premiere? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the Bumblebee premiere. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, no cell phone use in the theater, like no dust, or I'm not going to use my phone in the theater. Unless you're expecting a call or a medical emergency or whatever. It's like, one, why in the world would I be expecting a call during a movie? Like, hey, going to this movie at 7. If you could call me at like about 8:15, that'd be great. I'll step out of the movie. We'll have a quick conversation, go back in. Won't miss any important plot points because, who knows? I thought that was super weird that he was like, unless you're expecting a phone call. I mean, I guess thinking about it and talking about it out loud, that'd be like, my wife is in the hospital and she's going to have a baby. At which point, why are you in a movie theater to watch a preview of BumbleBee? I feel like there are arguments to be made, but arguments to be made against those arguments. It doesn't matter. So he's like explaining, he's like, hey, if you're on your phone in the theater, like if we catch you on the phone, like you're out. Like we're not messing around with this. And I'm like, gee, like they're taking this really seriously. Like they always play the get off your cell phones before the movie thing beforehand, and sometimes people don't listen, like when you go see Upgrade and the guy is like just on his phone because apparently he's on a date at 11:30 on a Sunday to a sci-fi movie, to where the guy sitting between me and Mr. Cell Phone User was like, hey, you want to turn your phone off? And it's like, what in the hell is happening? Why are you here? Why are you at Upgrade? And this is like a hard R sci-fi movie and you're on your phone. Like, pay attention. So while he's kind of explaining, a couple of other groups come up and he gave us kind of the same spiel. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, do you know of any sort of embargo that's going to be happening with this particular movie? And I had actually tweeted at the official like BumbleBee Twitter account, like, hey, I'm going to go see this preview screening. Like, what's the embargo on that? I do a show every Tuesday sort of thing. Never got a response. Didn't explain the YouTube thing to this guy. I was just curious if he knew anything about the embargo. He's like, no, I don't know anything about the embargo. After the movie, I assume you can kind of just do whatever you want with it. And I'm like, okay, can I take a picture of the reader board? And he's like, yeah, just don't use your phone in the movie theater. And I was like, cool, man, thanks. And then he got to watch me hold this Nintendo Switch up and hold my phone and take several photos of the Switch into the thing, and I went in and watched the movie, and they didn't play any trailers, which was kind of weird, but actually pretty awesome because that cut about 25 minutes off the runtime. Now that we're a good chunk of the way into this review, I can finally actually tell you about the movie. I really liked it. I think this is the best Transformers movie, maybe second best. I think the only one that it's competing with would be the first one from 2007 with Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox. That's the only one, but I think I like this one more. Now, I realize I say that, and it's not a super high bar to clear, but I still think that this movie deserves a lot of credit for what it does. There are so many things that this movie does well, or feels like it does correctly, that the other movies didn't. And it starts from the top with it being a simple story. That's super nice. As a person who doesn't know anything about Transformers, doesn't really care about the franchise, doesn't understand why the war between Autobots and Decepticons is happening, I don't care. Stop layering all of this crap on. Why I like the first one is not only is it a dumb, fun action movie, but it's basically one group wants the Allspark for whatever, and the other group wants the Allspark for whatever. It also has two of the best Transformers in the actual Xbox 360 Transformer and the Mountain Dew can machine Transformer that I always wanted action figures for but never got. This movie's super simple. It basically, the war for Cybertron's raging on. They send Bumblebee away like Superman from Krypton. He lands on Earth. He has to just hide out, establish a base, and wait for everybody else to show up. That's all you need for this movie. In addition to the movie plot itself being simple, the designs of the Transformers seem relatively simple as well. The movie's set in 1984, and early on it does actually feel like it's how many 80s songs can we cram into this movie to make you feel like it's the 80s? And it's like, man, you keep changing songs just to change songs, and that was just a weird thing that I noticed. The character designs are a lot simpler, and the colors are a lot clearer on exactly what's happening. In the first few Transformers movies, there are a lot of times where I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, I don't know who's fighting who and what's doing what, and none of this makes any sense. In this particular movie, because the colors pop, you really only see like a blue and a red and a yellow, and it's all very clear and well done, and it just feels coherent in a way that I understand who's doing what and who I'm supposed to be rooting for, even if the action sequences aren't all that exciting, and I wasn't all that into them because I liked the other elements of this movie a whole lot more. And I think that starts with the characters, and the cast is really, really great. You have John Cena, who's playing kind of that like almost stereotypical Transformers character, which is weird. He's like that general who constantly questions everything and is super shallow and grumpy all the time, but there's enough depth to him. He has enough of a personality to really stand out, even if his personality disappears 2 or 3 minutes after he's on screen. and things go wrong, and then now he's like super grumpy. Whatever, who cares? Haley Steinfeld is fantastic in the lead role. She gets to do cool action sequences. She gets to be happy and be sad, and she shows a range that I was not expecting in this particular movie. There is a very well done emotional scene when a lot of different things all come kind of crashing together, and she just, like, it just all comes out in a way that I was not expecting. Like, I'm a 28-year-old man who teared up at a Transformers movie. That happened. I thought the emotional scene was done super well, and I really like Haley Steinfeld in this role. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And finally, you have George Lodenborg, who plays the, like, kind of love interest. He has, like, a crush on Haley Steinfeld's main character, and he is absolutely terrific. He's also in Love, Simon, which is, so far, as of the last rankings, my favorite movie of the year. And he's really great in that movie as well, and it's cool to see him in this, and it took me forever to figure that out. I actually had to look up his filmography. I was like, that guy, he's super familiar. I've seen him in something. What is it? I couldn't place it until I looked at it, and as soon as I saw Love, Simon, I was like, that's exactly what it was. That is exactly... Damn it. Like, I was so bummed I couldn't place that. But he's fantastic. He nails all of his one-liners. And that's something that this movie, like, I can't get past how this movie is actually coherent, and, like, the jokes actually hit, and it's interesting and funny and surprisingly emotional, and the characters are engaging, and the cast is great. And I just, like, I walked out of this movie just, like, shaking my head, like, I can't believe I like this. I can't believe that I like this movie at this level. I'm not saying it's not, like, a great movie or anything. I'm just saying that, like, it so far and away exceeded the, granted, admittedly, maybe is a better word, incredibly low expectations I had for it, and just soared past them. Now, this movie isn't without its faults. It has some problems early on in the movie, with some of the action sequences actually being a problem, where the camera is too zoomed in. Like, you know, you can zoom the camera out, director, like, and make it maybe a little clearer exactly what's happening. But fortunately, that's the only time I really had that problem with it. Some of the action sequences, or like the what's going to happen next kind of like suspense building sequences, aren't super great, because this is a franchise that has 5 sequels. So it's hard to suspend that disbelief as far as, like, what's going to happen. The crowd I saw it with really, really liked it, and cheered a number of times, where I sat there and I was like, really? I also, like, put my hand on my face a couple of different times, because apparently, I guess mild spoilers, the Transformers gave us the internet or something. I don't know. It was supposed to be a joke, but it just came off really, really dumb. And for all the humor it does nail, it does miss a few here and there where you're just kind of like, oh, like, that's kind of dumb. There's also a plot point that's established early on that comes back later in the movie, but it doesn't come up super naturally, and it's kind of cheesy in a way that I was like, oh, like, kind of groan-inducing in its own way, which is unfortunate, because I actually do like that technique of introducing. I mean, it was something I talked about when I talked about Widows, was how much I liked that elements early in the movie were established and came up later, but it didn't really work in this particular case, unfortunately. And the ending fight sequence isn't super great. It's also helpful that this movie is about an hour shorter than some of the other Transformers movies, and it just feels like it's paced better. It really hits the humor, and I can't believe I like this movie as much as I do. I think even if you don't like the other Transformers movies, and you kind of like the character of Bumblebee is super interesting. He's engaging even though he can't talk. They do a great job animating and making him very expressive in his body language, and there are some very funny moments where he's almost like kind of like a child in some ways, where she's trying to teach him to do something and he follows, but it doesn't make sense, and the humor pays off really, really well. I don't know, this is just a movie that I thought was really, really great. So if you didn't like the Transformers movies, but you like the character of Bumblebee, maybe just give this a shot and see if this does something different for you. Because it definitely did for me, and so I think that's really great. I hope that I can't believe I'm saying this, I hope there's a sequel to this movie. I really liked it. I like the cast, I like the characters, and I think from this point you can start to introduce additional Transformers into it. I mean, all told, I think there are 5 Transformers that really have anything to do with this particular movie. and I really, really like that about it. It's just a fun movie that surpassed any expectations I had for it. Last week, there were two really big gaming events, the first being the Game Awards, and while I didn't watch the show, I caught up with it after the fact, and I wanted to share with you 3 things that I thought were really, really cool from that particular show. The first was The Outer Worlds, which is a game developed by Obsidian, who did South Park: The Stick of Truth and Fallout New Vegas, 2 RPGs that I really, really enjoy, and this trailer totally got me and hooked me in, and I am so excited about this game. I'm actually even more excited because I watched a 15 or so minute gameplay video that dove into the game a little bit more and showed some of the systems, dove into the combat a little bit, showed the dialogue system. I think this game is going to fill kind of that void left by Fallout 76 not really being a game that was what I wanted it to be, and I never really got into the Mass Effect franchise, so this feels like a good time to get into like a sci-fi RPG sort of thing. I don't know, the trailer just looks super good. I don't know, it looks so cool. I love it looks like a weird like space western sort of first person shooter RPG, big old mixed bag, and I loved all of it. It seems like it has a very dark and weird sense of humor. It's going to be up in that upper chunk of what I'm super excited for in 2019. The second game that they talked about was the Stanley Parable. I didn't know anything about this game. I guess it was nominated for a bunch of narrative awards back in 2013 when it originally released on PC, but I never heard of it because I never played PC games. And now that it's coming to consoles, I can look forward to it because that trailer was great. It was darkly funny and felt very cynical, and a style of humor that works really well for me. So I'm very interested in that particular game. I'm looking forward to playing it. I like the narrative-based stuff, and I don't know, that trailer was fucking great. And then third was Far Cry New Dawn, which debuted a couple of new great-looking villains. Like, Far Cry does such a great job with their villains, even if I have problems with the way they're presented most of the time because they just talk to you on a radio for a large chunk of the game. And I don't know how much of this game is going to be different from Far Cry 5, a game that I started and never completed because the main character, who looks like he's involved in this game somehow, is really fucking boring. So, I don't know, like, I tussled with this one a little bit. I wrote in my notes, like, it was 2/3 of a good trailer. I like the art style, I like the color palette, I like the villains. That all looks really great. I'm reserved because Jacob Seed's involved and because I don't know if it's going to do enough to distinguish it from any other Far Cry game that I've played. But it is well priced at $40 and releases in February, so that feels like maybe more of a warranted gamble at that point. That $40 price point is really nice to me. And I'm really curious about those villains because they looked fucking great. The other big gaming event this week was the Kinda Funny Games Showcase. Filling the void left by PSX, Kinda Funny gave 69 games, nice, a chance to shine and get out in the spotlight. And I thought it was a really well done show. As a person who watches a lot of Kinda Funny content, I watch the morning show and Games Daily almost every single day. I thought they did a great job of taking their own criticisms of other people's conferences and applying it to their own, and just kept going with games. Like, they just kept the momentum rolling the entire time. And even the one time that they looked like they were going to slow down to be like, we have a 6-minute thing for Anthem, I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. But we're going to put that up separately, and we're going to just give you like a little 30-second or 45-second snippet of it. Was a really great choice on their part. There's no point in slowing it down for 6 minutes for a game that some people do and some people don't care. I understand that, like, if you're at an EA conference or an Ubisoft conference, that's the sort of information you want. But in the game showcase or a multi-platform sort of thing, if it's a third-party game, I don't want that much information. Just put it up separately. The people who want it can find it, and I don't have to sit through it because I don't care all that much about Anthem. So I thought that was a really smart choice. And originally my idea was going to be, hey, I'm going to take the top 10 game announcements from this thing, and I'm going to tell you all about them. After I rewatched it a second time, I wrote down 23 games. 23 pieces of content got written down. There's one DLC in there. They had so much cool stuff in there. They had stuff like Adam's Assembly, which is a one-man development team that looks like sort of a sci-fi game. That looked awesome. Moving Out was overcooked with moving. The trailer was great and hilarious. I don't know what the hell Golf Blitz is. I'm assuming it's a mini golf game, but the trailer was pretty crazy. I know I'm saying that a lot, like, oh, it's a great trailer. That's all they had. Not many of these games had a ton of gameplay, but they were interesting from either a narrative perspective or a visual perspective or a tone perspective that got on the list. You have Human Fall Flat DLC, that's exciting. You have stuff like The Occupation, which is an investigative mystery game that I'm very excited about. Disco Elysium, which is another kind of detective case-solving game. Bury Me, My Love, which is about Syrian refugees. Color, which is a puzzle game based on color theory. Boyfriend Dungeon. You have Thunder Rally, which is a destruction derby party game. Monkey Business or Ape Out. I couldn't figure out what the title of that was, which looked like if you played Hotline Miami as a monkey, that looked really cool. Supermarket Shriek was there. I have no idea what the game is, but it looks really, really fun. The Church in the Darkness, which is a game they've talked about before, and that's back. It's like a stealth game where you have to infiltrate a cult or I don't even know. A Fold Apart looked touching, about a long-distance relationship. Genevieve Detective, which had a great visual style. And then The Walking Dead capped it all off with an announcement of their 3rd episode launching in January. So there's all kinds of games that are in this showcase, and they did such a great job. Like, they talked about 69 games. Nice. And I wrote down a third of them. Like, I wrote down 33% of the games because they were interesting to me in some capacity. And I think that's just a tremendous achievement. Like, I get the one criticism you could level at that number, 69, nice, is that there's too many games. And I did have to watch it a second time to make sure I had all my notes in order and getting all that stuff ready. But at the same time, like, that's a lot of stuff. If you take 6 games or 7 games out of this, that's 10% of the showcase, and that's 7 games to look forward to in the next year or two. That's a great rate. Like, for the number of games that they show at like a Microsoft or a PlayStation, I don't think I ever really hit that number. 33% of the games being shown that I care about, that's awesome. I hope this is a yearly thing. This was a great first step, and I hope it does well enough to do it next year. I thought this was a fantastic presentation and gave me a lot to look forward to in 2019. Finally, on this week's show, we have what is new this week, which means, unfortunately, our streak of festive limited edition items has come to an end. It's unfortunate, but that's okay. On Blu-ray this week, Colette is out with Keira Knightley about a writer. The Equalizer 2, The Evil Dead is on 4K, and Smallfoot hits Blu-ray, which I'm putting in here solely to remind myself when I'm editing, watch Smallfoot, so your sister will stop asking you to watch Smallfoot. In theaters, Once Upon a Deadpool hits and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It also looks like we're going to get The Favorite up here, which I'm surprised because they kept showing it as New York and LA November 25th or Thanksgiving or whatever, and then Christmas for everywhere else. So getting that a couple weeks early is super awesome. I'm very excited about all 3 of those movies, actually. Xbox Game Pass got some new dates. Hellblade hits on December 17th, Ori and the Blind Forest on December 20th, and then Below on December 14th. That one's like a day-and-date launch. Below's been in development for like 6 years, and I think I was excited about it at one point, but I don't know. And then finally, games just on the shelf. Forza gets its Fortune Island DLC, Forza Horizon 4 that is. And that comes out. It has a new set of achievements for 500 gamer score, and I'm looking forward to kind of jumping back into that game. I liked it, but fell off it pretty quickly. This is more than enough reason to get back into the game. That comes out on December 13th. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Let me know down below what you're excited for. Did you see BumbleBee on the preview screening day? What did you think? Did you like the Kind of Funny Games showcase and the games they announced? Did you like any of the announcements of the Game Awards? While you're down there leaving that comment, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and be sure to check back every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.